when they head to the polls in November. We'll discuss this and more of today's top headlines. I'm Ernie Manous.
And I'm Christina Wells. What happens when a decades-old effort to expand opportunities for minority-owned businesses collides with the Constitution? UH Law professor Seth Chandler explains what this ruling could mean for Houston.
Plus, what happens when a nurse, motivational speaker, Broadway star, and America's Got Talent standout takes on one of musical theater's most outrageous roles? Christina's going to tell us.
And always, we want to hear from you. Give us a call or text us at 713-440-8870 or email us at talk@hellohouston.org.
Hello Houston is made possible in part by founding sponsors John Bradshaw and Kathy Sanders, and by gifts from listeners like you.
Live from NPR News in Washington, I'm Louise Schiavone. The Labor Department is reporting wholesale inflation fell last month as price spikes associated with the war with Iran began to recede. The latest producer price index results suggest consumer inflation could begin to decrease in the coming months. NPR's Scott Horsley looks at the details of a seesaw energy situation.
Gasoline prices came down a little bit in July, as they did in June, but they are still way up compared to where they were before the war with Iran began. AAA puts the average price of regular gas today at $4.07 a gallon. It's actually been going up again in recent days. And prices could climb further in August unless there's some real progress to get oil moving more normally through the Strait of Hormuz.
NPR's Scott Horsley. In Iraq, a major Iran-backed militia has handed its weapons over to the government. NPR's Jane Araf reports the move is part of an effort to disarm powerful paramilitary groups before U.S. forces withdraw in September.
The group, Asab Ahl al-Haq, was once one of the most powerful militias fighting U.S. forces in Iraq. It says it has not attacked U.S. targets since the Iran war began. Iraq's security spokesman, Lieutenant General Saad Mann, says the group handed over drones, missiles, and other weapons to government security forces. He tells NPR it's an important step.
I think the situation will be better. Nobody will have this opposition against the government, against the will of our society, our community.
Several other groups that have been attacking U.S. targets are still refusing to disarm. Jane Araf, NPR News, Baghdad.
The Department of Homeland Security is planning to equip officers from U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement with gloves that can deliver electric shocks to people being arrested. NPR's Meg Anderson reports manufacturer Compliant Technology says the gloves are designed for de-escalation.
Kenneth Corey, a former New York City police officer, says use of force is like a ladder. Each rung gets more intense. If someone charges at you with a knife, more force might be warranted. He says it's how an agency uses a new tool that matters most.
You have to have strong policies that govern its use, and then you have to make sure that your people are being held accountable.
But ICE has faced intense scrutiny over its use of force, including multiple fatal shootings. Some immigrant advocates worry those guardrails won't happen at the agency. In a statement, DHS told NPR that ICE is always assessing officer needs to ensure they have the tools to safely make arrests. Meg Anderson, NPR News.
Record-breaking heavy rain has caused floods and paralyzed traffic in Chiba Prefecture in eastern Japan. One person has died. Hundreds of thousands have been told to move to higher ground. Wall Street, the Dow is off 84 points. This is NPR.
Live from News 88.7 in Houston, I'm Tom Perumian. A former Magnolia police officer has been charged with sexually assaulting a child. The Montgomery County Precinct 3 Constable's Office says 44-year-old Brandon David Muse was arrested Tuesday in Louisiana. Deputies say he had been working as a school bus monitor there. The local allegations were made by a 14-year-old girl who was 11 at the time. Over 35,000 workers at Houston's airports are getting raises of more than 30% today. Under an executive order issued by Mayor John Whitmire, the order requires contractors and vendors to meet a $20 minimum wage immediately, followed by incremental hikes in coming years. Whitmire says the move comes after hospitality unions won gains across the city over the past year.
As strong as our city is, it's only as strong as our workers are. Organized labor works.
The last raise for airport workers came under the late Mayor Sylvester Turner in 2023. Taking a look at sports, the Houston Texans are on the field tonight for their first preseason game of the year at Reliance Stadium. They take on the LA Chargers. Most of the team's starters not expected to play, though. Kickoff is set for 7 p.m. And the Astros get the 2-1 win to get out of San Francisco. They return home in first place in the AL West. They open up a weekend series against Seattle at Daikin Park, 7:10 on Friday. Taking a check of your weather. We've got a slight chance of showers and thunderstorms between 1 and 4 this afternoon. Otherwise, it's going to be mostly sunny with a high near 96. Heat values as high as 106. Ouch. Tonight, partly cloudy with a low around 79. Friday, a 30% chance of showers and thunderstorms. Otherwise, mostly sunny with a high near 95. Heat index values as high as 109. Right now, it's partly cloudy, 90 degrees on the UH campus. I'm Tom Perumian, News 88.7.
Support for NPR comes from NPR stations. Other contributors include the Andrew Carnegie Foundation, formerly Carnegie Corporation of New York, working to reduce political polarization through support for education, democracy, and peace. More information at carnegie.org.
From Houston Public Media and News 88.7, it's Hello Houston, an open forum on today's biggest stories affecting Houston and beyond. Call now, 713-440-8870, or let us know your thoughts on today's topics by emailing us at talk@hellohouston.org. And now, Hello Houston.
Hello, Houston. Ernie Manous here with you on this wonderful Thursday, and joining me in studio, which makes it an even more wonderful day, a friend of our show for a long time, a friend of mine for even longer. You all know her. You may not know her personally like I do, but you know her. It's Christina Wells. You saw her on America's Got Talent. You might have caught her in the national tour of Chicago. You may have seen her. What I love that you do is you've gone out and done parades. And I just think that's the coolest gig in the world. I could never get up that early. But Christina Wells is here with us for the full 2 hours today, sitting in the guest host chair. Hello there.
Hello. I'm excited to be here.
Talk to me a little bit about those parade gigs.
Oh, yeah.
Because you've gone off on your Thanksgivings now are a lot different than ours.
I know. I've done so many different parades. And I'll tell you, people think that you get parades through agents. You don't. You get parades through people who watch the show, who produce parades. But I love doing the parades because it's an opportunity to get out and meet people in different communities, and also to get to be like, you know, have we all dreamed with our hairbrush of waving on the parade? We have. I mean, I'm sure you have, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Because I for sure did. So, yes. One of my favorite ones ever to do is I sang a special song during the Christmas season by one and only Mariah Carey with 100 dancers, 10 of which were dancing Christmas trees. Thank you very much.
That is fun, though. That's cool. And I guess there are moments when you think about your life today, never imagined.
Oh my gosh, no. I found this book I had before I got on America's Got Talent, and it had a list of dream goals.
Yeah.
And I've done all of them except for like 2.
Really?
Literally. Like on one of the things was to perform at the Cynthia Woods Mitchell Pavilion. And I sang with the Houston Symphony last summer for 4th of July at the Cynthia Woods Mitchell Pavilion. Like sing, you know, da-da-da-da-da for da-da-da. Did that. Sing, you know, Dream Girls for the world. I wrote that. And I sang Dream Girls on America's Got Talent for 11 million people. I'm thinking I'm doing pretty good so far. But no, it is. It's actually funny when you have to make a new list of dreams.
Yeah.
Yeah, dream things to accomplish.
I never did one of those lists.
Oh, I have lots of them.
Yeah.
And I think it's because I'm a person that I definitely imagine the things I want to do. People call it woo-woo, manifesting, all those different phrases. But I believe it's just simply deciding for yourself what you want. And when you do that, you reflect that energy out to people. Yeah. And people think that, oh, she should do that because she's acting like she wants to do that, right? Like I tell people that manifesting is not some magical thing. Like, for instance, if I want to sing on blank and I talk about it, you ask me, what do you want to do next? Well, I really want to sing at such and such. I really want to do it such and such.
So you're putting it out there.
Exactly.
Yeah. Where was co-hosting Hello Houston on your list?
It was actually at the top of the list, and it was one of the 2 things I hadn't accomplished yet.
So
thank you for letting that happen today, Ernie.
I will tell you something else that was on our list to accomplish, and that was to hit the goal for our resiliency fund, which you've heard us talk about it. We were in pledge for a while with it, and pledge in campaign. We call it pledge. You used to pledge. You would send in your donation.
I remember
now
those
we
days.
take it immediately
You're
from you with your credit cards and your bank transfers. But anyway, we had a $4.4 million deficit we were trying to make up for. That was because of the federal funding that was cut, that went away. It was $2.2 million for 2 years, 4.4 if you do the math. We were in drive, and we've come so close. We are $100,000 short of hitting that goal. Well, guess what I found out today?
Tell me.
I'm very excited about this. Laura McWilliams has made a gift in memory of Bradley McWilliams of $50,000, but it's a matching grant.
So this would get us to goal.
This would get us to goal. If you want to make a donation right now, you can give us a call, 888-909-0887, or go to HoustonPublicMedia.org. And if you go to HoustonPublicMedia.org, there's a thing that's the resiliency tracker. You got to click there to do this and make your donation. For every dollar you donate, Laura McWilliams will match that. And if we use all of the money she is gifting to us right now, by you all coming forward, we will hit that $100,000 and we will hit our goal.
That's amazing. It's amazing.
Well, it's such a generous community out there.
Exactly.
And for the McWilliams to think about this and say, you know what, this is what can I do to help them get to that goal? I can earmark $50,000 for
Yeah,
them.
and show tribute to someone they clearly love very much.
Yes, to Bradley McWilliams. And so, come on, do it now. We would love to hear from you. If you heard us during this resiliency campaign and you didn't make the gift and then it ended and you thought, I probably should have done it, now's the time to do it. Plus, your gift gets doubled. I'm very excited about this. It's cool that it could happen. It's cool that they made this gift to this station. And I think it's also important. We see this with other things going on in our community now, that it's folks want to support, but they also want to know the community supports it as well. So making this kind of a gift of a $50,000 matching grant, that says I need to see involvement from the community. I need to see the community cares enough to step up to do it, and then I will match that. So it's not a guaranteed chunk of money for us. We need you to get involved and help, and we can hit that goal. And that would be amazing that we could make up that deficit left by federal fund cutting.
It would be amazing. Also, I think the biggest thing is when you donate to Houston Public Media, you're donating to your community.
Mm-hmm.
Like a lot of times when we think about giving to foundations or giving to organizations, you're like, where's that money going to go? What are they going to use it for? You know what we're using it for.
Yeah.
You know what's going to happen with that money here, and that's going to be giving right back into the community.
It's important that we have a place where we can tell our stories fairly, accurately, diversely, and we bring all of that to you. And it's either through maybe a Hello Houston, which has a little bit more of a talky slant to it and an opinion slant, but in our newsroom every single day, there are news people that live in our community telling our stories and sharing it with the world. And I say with the world because not only outside of the YouTube sharing and the online stories that we now can tell, but also so many of our reporters are picked up for a statewide broadcast, for national broadcast, and these are our stories being told, so the world knows who we are. But we need your help to do it. I don't want to go on and on. We're not in campaign right now. It's just that right before we went on air, we found out about this gift. And so I want to motivate you right now. If you can make that donation, please give us a call at 888-909-0887 or go online at HoustonPublicMedia.org and click the resiliency tracker. It's that little counter that's there. And we will match dollar for dollar, thanks to the help of Laura McWilliams, in memory of Bradley McWilliams, up to $50,000. Do it now. Okay,
Yes.
That was the business I had to get onto. We'll remind you of that a little later in the show, no doubt. But we've got a great show for you today. We're going to be talking about, there's so many political ads out there right now, and there's so many speech stomps that they do, or you can log into to rallies and all that, and candidates say a lot of stuff. What's the truth? How do you know what they really stand for, what you should listen to? What are the guidelines on advertising? Things we need to know as we head into a very important election cycle. We're going to be talking about that later on in today's show. Minority-owned businesses are under the spotlight again about fairness, and we're going to be talking about what that means. Plus, Christina Wells is here with me. So we're going to be talking to you later in the show about all you've been doing and what you've got coming up. You got an exciting show opening.
Yes.
It's just a 5-day run.
Yeah,
it's a
short
quick
run.
one. But we're going to talk about that coming up, so you're not going to want to go anywhere. And current obsessions. What are yours? Mine is Christina Wells right now. But you can start sending those into us at talk@hellohouston.org, and we'll be going through those later in the show. We want to hear from you. Also, if you don't want to write them in, hang on and give us a call. I love talking to people about their obsessions. All that being said, as always, we start the show with the news of the day. Christina, take me into the headlines.
Voters in the city of Houston will consider deprioritizing enforcement of cannabis laws and banning no-knock warrants when they head to the polls in November. The city council approved the ballot referendum on Wednesday after progressive advocacy organization Ground Game Texas submitted a petition with more than 40,000 signatures, about 15,000 more than required under city code. In Texas, possession of up to 4 ounces of marijuana is a misdemeanor offense, punishable by up to a year in jail and a $4,000 fine. The petition calls for the Houston Police Department, HPD, to make misdemeanor cannabis possession its lowest possible enforcement priority. Under a program operated by the Harris County District Attorney's Office, which prosecutes crimes in a county that includes Houston, officers already have the ability to divert people from jail into a 90-day community service supervision and 4-hour cognitive class. What are your thoughts? Call or text 713-440-8870.
I think this is kind of fascinating from a position you may not think of it as. I'm fascinated about state laws and then cities underneath it altering how those laws are interpreted. And I think it says a lot about where we are today, that there can be such diversity in opinion of things that are being decided by the people we have elected into office. That kind of fascinates me. It's not exactly what this topic is about, but it's a behavior I'm noticing. We have diversity in thought and diversity in control. And I'm also interested in how different parties, we have a 2-party system for the most part, have shifted in where their position is on things like big government and government overreach. And what you thought one party stood for, then it shifts and becomes a different point of view. That's just floating in the back of all this for me.
I think another thing with this specific topic is alcohol.
Yeah.
Because the more people that are using marijuana legally, research is showing they're just not drinking alcohol.
Yeah.
And so as alcohol companies are seeing that profit margin dip down, that's when oftentimes you see these legal changes. And I'm excited to see a good change, not driven necessarily by a big company.
713-440-8870. We would love to know what you think about this topic. Share with us as we continue to discuss it. I think it's interesting also how, and if you're a medical professional, want to call it, or you, Christina, being a nurse, the impact marijuana has on your system when used in moderation compared to what alcohol does to your system when used even in moderation, and how we have grown to the point that one is seen as the evil with the little devil horns on it, and the other is seen as social recreation. Your thoughts?
Well, I mean, 100 years ago, where were we? It was the other way around. Alcohol was evil. Right?
Yeah.
Prohibition, horns, but
we saw how well Prohibition worked out.
I know, but we had medication that doctors were giving us with cocaine in them. So it's very interesting, the perspectives and how they change, and also what makes the public happy, right? So is there work in drinking alcohol? Do you have to prepare it? Do you have to understand how to use it? There's a learning curve for marijuana. That's something I've had to realize, flower, what does that mean? Sativa, all these different words. And so, you can go to the 7-Eleven and you can get alcohol very easily. And and an hour later, you're already forgetting your problems. So I think that's one of the things. And now you're seeing these younger generations are very well versed in marijuana, and they're not interested in what many people consider alcohol to be a poison.
Well, I'm also fascinated about the profit margins that come about when we talk about this. The reason that alcohol has such a strong hold is that there's an awful lot of money being made there. There's money being made in the sale of it, in the wholesaling of it. And it fascinates me because it seems as though if marijuana were embraced differently
socially,
but even in the government's understanding of it, how you could move that more to a profit-based business that isn't with illicit drugs and illegalness, and helping, I don't want to say cartels, but you know the idea where I'm going.
Yeah, but the other thing is that specifically on this topic, research shows that marijuana and having very strict laws against marijuana, it increases the number of people that you have in prisons, especially of certain colors and certain socio-demographics. And so when now prisons are, very profitable versus just being a place to put people who are breaking the law,
right?
That's going to keep big government wanting to drive that because those big businesses want to get their money. And then the other thing with alcohol is...
And before you go to that, I just want to say on the prison situation, too, that I heard prison populations are declining, and you got to fill those prisons.
That's exactly right. That's exactly what I was about to say.
Okay.
The other thing is people are upset right now. And when you're usually miserable, what do? You drink. And if they're not drinking during misery and they're not drinking when they're happy, that's a problem, right? That's a problem.
713-440-8870. Kelly from Montrose is on the phone. Kelly, what are your thoughts on this topic?
So I work in the alcohol business.
Okay.
I'm not going to be clear about which part, but I'm in the business.
Okay.
And let me tell you that liquor stores are not the people that are going against this marijuana law.
Mm-hmm.
Liquor stores are the people who are most likely to profit from it. First of all, sell alcoholic THC beverages are a big part of their business, but they're also already set up to monitor the age. So when marijuana actually becomes legal at some point, the place that's going to be the best set up to sell it are going to be liquor stores.
Yes.
Liquor stores are not behind trying to get rid of marijuana or stop that from happening. The opposite. They don't like what governor or the lieutenant governor is doing and are trying to stop the ban from happening.
Yeah. Kelly. Oh, yeah.
I was going to say, have you been in other states and seen the way they sell, THC beverages and how easy it is to get them and how people it's almost like a liquor store replaced with THC beverages. Have you seen that?
I have. And, right now there's a dispensary on every corner right now because of the new laws.
Mm-hmm.
And, in my neighborhood, there's a Bahama Mama every 4 blocks.
Mm-hmm.
And that's okay. They're not hurting the liquor store business. Mm-hmm. There is plenty of people to go around for everybody.
Kelly, thank you for calling in and sharing your point of view with us. We're interested in all points of view. Give us a call or text 713-440-8870. We had a text that came in that said, like Tallarico says, the THC ban would be a gift to the cartels. More people getting it illegally, more people possibly consuming laced products, more crime, and hospitalizations. Something to think about. I also want to tell you over on our YouTube page where our YouTubers keep an active chat going every day. There's a poll we just put up. Should Texas legalize recreational marijuana? Go over there, take the poll, let us know what you think. There's a yes, a no, a decriminalize, but don't legalize, and a not sure. No, I need more information. Let us know. Go there, make your voice heard. We'll be giving you the results in just a little bit on that one. I am also fascinated because, you know me, I don't drink and I don't do marijuana. So I'm pretty much the outlier in all of this.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not, I don't drink because I have some moral stance against. I don't drink because I just never liked the flavor.
Yeah.
I don't smoke because my dad was always a cigarette smoker, and just the whole idea of smoking just never excited me either. Would I take a gummy? I don't know. I don't need any. For me, I
understand
found
that.
other ways to cope, but I yell at my mother. That's how I get
Yell
through.
at my mother.
That's my way out of it. We are going to go back to another comment. Noah writes, the state is tripping. I've smoked a joint with a wide array of backgrounds. We need to make this money. Good point about wanting to turn it into a profit base.
Because it would make a lot of money.
It would. And it's interesting because if I remember correctly, we voted in favor of it statewide, and then there was a shift to go the other direction, and now here we are.
Well, we do have medical marijuana cards. I have multiple sclerosis, and I was approved for one. I went through the whole process because I wanted to try and see if something would help me with my pain. And I used quite a few topical, and I found it to be very useful for my pain, actually. And the first thing I thought as a nurse was, I worried if people could use this. The only time I've ever given a patient cannabis was if they had cancer or hospice. And of course, end of life situations, or if they have a hunger problem. If you're not eating because of chemotherapy, they'll use cannabis for that. And I thought immediately, I was like, this would help so many people. And you don't need to be dying in order to receive this help and this care. So I don't know. Sometimes it feels like things can be pitted against helping us.
Sometimes it can, but it's not pitted against helping us. This program, we are here to help you every day. I want to remind you one more time, we are still in our resiliency ask of the day to match. We're trying to get $50,000 in because we just got a gift, a double match from Laura McWilliams. So make that donation right now, 888-909-0887 or HoustonPublicMedia.org and click the resiliency tracker. Okay. Quick break. When we come back, we've got more to talk about right here on Hello Houston. Don't go anywhere.
Meet Dio Choco. We just took his keys for the day and gave him a Ride Metro fare card. This is his story. Visit ridemetro.org/Choco to find out where is Choco.
Wrong with money and politics.
That story on All Things Considered from NPR News.
And All Things Considered starts at 3 o'clock this afternoon here on News 88.7.
Historian Beverly Gage never gets tired of seeing where the USA was founded, in her hometown of Philadelphia.
Independence Hall is still a really powerful place to visit.
And the folks from Atlas Obscura recommend fun places to see on a great American road trip.
America has this kind of obsession of building enormous versions of giant things.
On the next Travel with Rick Steves.
You can listen to Travel with Rick Steves Saturday at 6 a.m.
From English to Russian, the diverse web of languages spoken in the West are more connected than we think.
The Indo-European languages, of which there are about 400 living today, are now spoken by nearly half of humanity.
A look at the early language that birthed so many others and how researchers study an ancient language with no written text. That's next time on Think.
Think tonight at 11 o'clock here on News 88.7. Support for Houston Public Media comes from the Audie International School, where students from PK3 to 12th grade grow in curiosity and courage, preparing them to make their mark on the world. The future's so bright at Audie. More at audie.org. Support also from Chariot Energy, offering customers electricity plans that match their energy use schedules and lifestyles. All plans come with 100% renewable energy. Details at chariotenergy.com. And now back to Hello Houston. To comment on today's topics, call or text 713-440-8870 or email us at talk@hellohouston.org. And now Ernie Manous and Christina Wells.
Late last month, a federal judge ruled that a long-standing Houston program giving some city contracts to minority-owned businesses was unconstitutional. The ruling comes after lawsuits were filed by two white business owners who argued the program discriminated against them based on race. But the city is considering an appeal. Joining us to discuss the ruling and what it could mean for Houston's contracting programs is Seth Chandler, a Law Foundation professor of law at the University of Houston Law Center. Seth, welcome to Hello Houston.
Thank you for having me.
I guess this is not just in this particular case, but this issue, this idea has been spreading across the country right now about what it means to have certain programs that watch out for certain groups of people, and some view it as giving them an extra leg up. Others see it as a way to level the playing field. I don't know if there's a question in there as much as I'm curious your thoughts just before we get into the specifics of this case.
These programs have been in effect in many jurisdictions for decades, but the question has become whether, in light of recent Supreme Court decisions striking down, for example, affirmative action in education, striking down certain gerrymandering that was supposed to help minorities, whether those programs can really withstand a modern understanding of the Equal Protection Clause.
I think one issue that's always brought in before we get into the legalese of it all is, are they still necessary? And that seems to be the point that a lot of people fight on.
Right. So that's an important question. And the other question is, can you really monitor the underlying goal? That is, a lot of these programs measure things by the percentage of ownership by a minority person. And that has two problems. The first is that the definition of a minority person has become increasingly more difficult. What do you mean? Latino is a very amorphous group. So is Asian. That encompasses all sorts of things. So what do you mean? Who's actually been discriminated against? And then there's this other issue about fronting. in which, yes, technically the business is owned by a minority person so that their name is on the piece of paper, but in fact the profits from that business are going to the same people that it went to before, maybe a white person who's the president who siphons off enough in salary that really very little is left for the minority business owner.
Are there legal guidelines to that?
Yes, in theory that can be examined. The reality, however, is that in a large city, a large program, proving that it's just a front is extraordinarily difficult. And in fact, I'm not aware of it ever having been proved. And certainly I have seen in my own practice many, many years ago fronting arrangements that were designed to basically benefit from these minority business set-asides, but really didn't do anything to enhance minority opportunity.
I want to remind folks, if you want to call in and join this conversation, if you own a business and you have an opinion on this, or if you simply have an opinion on this, give us a call, 713-440-8870. It's your chance to actually ask Seth a question, because rarely do you get the chance to talk to someone who knows so much about this and have your questions asked. So give us a call, 713-440-8870.
I know. I'm half black, half white, surprise. And I own a business, and I have received grants and other opportunities because of the fact that I'm a woman and because I'm considered a minority. And I agree with what you're saying, because I was personally shocked at how easy it was for me to prove. Like, simply, here's a photo, or, here's a piece of paperwork, and that was it. Versus I've done other things that was way more difficult in order to get the assistance. But in proving I'm a minority and a woman, boom, here's a check. So I could see where that would draw in people who are trying to front and say, "Wow, Christina, go be the brown person for this application," but really we're going to take the money afterwards.
Right. And I will say that the decision recently that you referenced earlier by Judge Hittner only applied to the racial component of the Houston and Midtown set-aside programs. It did not apply to the women-owned business programs. That's being litigated separately.
Okay, so take me into this particular case. What happened? What is the concern? And where are we at with it in light of what the Supreme Court said?
Right. These were cases brought by a company called Landscape Consulting, which I take it does landscaping, I would assume. They're being represented by the Pacific Legal Foundation, which is sort of one of the leading, you could sort of think of them as the ACLU for the conservatives. They're a public interest organization that tends to represent causes of this nature. And they claimed that they had been disadvantaged in the Houston and Midtown contracting processes by Houston's requirement that a certain fraction of subcontractors come from these minority-owned businesses, or at least that you show that you really, really tried, and the Midtown system, which actually allocated points based on whether you were a minority-owned business or not. And the federal district court, Judge Hittner, a Reagan appointee, decided that that was not appropriate in light of Supreme Court striking down of affirmative action programs in the Harvard case, or in the recent Louisiana case involving racial gerrymandering in order to achieve greater minority representation.
Okay, take me into the whole concept of this affirmative action ruling, in that the Supreme Court was saying what? That we are at a point where we no longer have to be concerned with this because the playing field is leveled?
Not so much.
Okay.
It's actually, what's interesting to me is that this minority set-aside has lasted as long as it has, because the handwriting's really been on the wall since the late 1980s, when the Supreme Court looked at a system in the former heart of the Confederacy, Richmond, Virginia, which had decided that it would give preference to minority businesses. And what the court there said is, just the fact that there might be some discrimination in the world, which surely there is, that wasn't enough. You had to identify specific discriminatory practices that were being engaged in either by private contractors who were being funded by the city or by the city itself. Otherwise, They were going to treat discrimination against white contractors the same as they would discrimination against African American or other minority contractors, and you would have to show a compelling governmental interest, no other means of achieving that goal. So the handwriting's been on the wall for a long time. There have been various circuit court opinions that have attempted to sort of bypass this, because a lot of people disagree with the Supreme Court on this and think that you shouldn't have to prove individual cases, that just, hey, look at the statistics, that should be enough. And what the judge did here was to say, look, Houston, you haven't shown a single instance of discrimination by a private contractor. You haven't, in the past 5 years at least, you haven't shown a single instance of any effort to pursue someone who was practicing discrimination. And so, given those factual findings, the judge said, we're basically back in that old 1980s case called Crossan, and you can't meet the criteria that was announced there. The judge then went on to say, look, you've got the Harvard case saying that we're going to treat discrimination symmetrically regardless of what race it's against, and sort of amorphous claims of this would help diversity isn't enough. You've got the Calais case taking it outside of the education context. You put all that together, and the judge, I think, found a fairly easy case in front of him that struck down these preferences.
So let me then shift a little bit. Because of these rulings and this understanding, does that tell whoever awards contracts, you cannot look at race? You cannot look at this, because you can say, well, our community is made up of 12% African American and 40% Hispanic, so 12% of the contracts we give out will go to African American and 40% will go to Hispanic. How is that illegal if you're just trying to reflect your community?
Because that's exactly what the judge said in this case was an unconstitutional use of race. That's racial balancing, which the court has struck down in a case called Seattle School District many years ago. You can't just use the demographic characteristics of a particular political area as a basis for determining which contracts to award. You have to show, I mean, you may not like this ruling, but this is what the court has said.
Yeah.
You have to show specific acts of discrimination, and the factual findings, which will be very hard to overturn on appeal, just simply Houston did not make its case under the existing Supreme Court standard.
So in this particular case, the business owners that have brought the case are saying they didn't get contracts because they're a white business?
They said they were disadvantaged in the process. I don't believe they were able to make out, I could be mistaken, I don't believe they made out that they could find a particular contract. But just as imagine, supposing you were applying to a school and they were to say, well, we're going to take 50 points off because you're a white guy. I think you would have a claim, even though maybe you didn't know yet whether you would be accepted or not.
Well, the reverse side of this, in my very simple perspective, is that when you say trying to prove the racism or trying to prove that these groups have a problem, it's because those issues are 2 and 3 tiers back. Like, for example, if I have 10 contractors and you are a white business that have access because of family relationships, nepotism, whatever, to access to have, some kind of line of credit that you can lowball and put in the lowest bid. But my company, first generation business owner, no one has had a business, and I happen to be brown, and that can make it more difficult to get funding to support my business. I can't put in a bid as low as you can. So the racism is 2 tiers back. So now I'm not able to meet, and that's what I think of like preventative medicine, right? Versus curative medicine. So instead of waiting for the disease to happen. So the reason you have these DEI affirmative action things are to say, we know in the process of getting to have a business and coming forward as a contractor, there are hurdles in your life because your skin is a certain color or because you have a certain gender. And we want to try to offset that balance by giving you some more opportunity and a better chance. Instead of saying who can give me the lowest bid, saying if we have a percentage of people, not just reflecting our community, but a percentage of people that we know research proves do not have the same access to creating a business the same way you do, white people, not offense to white people, we're using this example for the story, then that's what this is a balancing of. So then if you could say, oh, well, I feel like I was discriminated against because we were white. No, you felt like you weren't able to use the same techniques that usually would allow you to give a front, forward. They say privilege can feel like when things are equal, it can feel like oppression when you're used to privilege.
Right. And Christina, that is a beautiful articulation of precisely the rationale that the Supreme Court rejected back in the Crossan case back in the 1980s and continued to reject in the Harvard case, this notion that you shouldn't need to show immediate discrimination, that there's discrimination in society, and that we should be able to take that into account in determining the scope of the Equal Protection Clause. And for better or worse, and the Supreme Court does not agree with you. Or at least a majority of them.
But here's a second piece to this that people don't think about. In this example, okay, brown, white. But if you look at DEI and the fact that they took that away from college decisions and even in job situations, in colleges, they're showing a huge decrease in white males applying because they needed those services. In jobs, white women are finding out they were the largest benefactor of DEI in the workplace. The largest, because they are a minority. They're women. So I think this is the part where people get confused. It's like, yes, it doesn't always seem perfect, but where's perfect going to live? Is it going to live in a place where every single person gets the same opportunity? Because I don't think they would be happy about that either, versus everyone that we're giving like chances and help to some people to try to level the playing field. Sorry.
Anything to say on that one?
I mean, it's a theory that many people agree with.
Yes.
All I can tell you is that they didn't make their case to the Supreme Court, and this is why elections matter. Who's on the Supreme Court?
Yes, because who can relate to this?
It's determined by basically the results of political processes over many decades. And there's also a little element of luck involved in who happens to die or resign during a particular presidency.
Let me jump into what Christina was saying there, and it's an interesting point. I'm curious what the court's answer was to this. Is her idea of the 2-tier or 3-tier racism that's there, that they've had systemic issues that have limited them from being able to compete as equal. What does the Supreme Court say about that?
The Supreme Court says that's sort of an amorphous theory, that it doesn't really get at what's happening currently. It would justify all sorts of forms of discrimination, and that it's not sufficiently particularistic. We need to look at things on an individual basis, and it also ends up, since some of these are zero-sum games, it ends up punishing people who are perfectly innocent. For example, landscape consultants, the plaintiffs here, say, okay, we're white, but look at our workforce. Our workforce is almost all Hispanic. We've never discriminated against anyone. You've never shown that we discriminated against a minority subcontractor, and yet we're being shut out of these jobs, which would, in fact, the people who would actually do the work and get a paycheck would be mostly Hispanic individuals. And so what is the good of this?
Yeah, but that's ridiculous. Come on, show me a landscaping company that's got all white people cutting the grass. Like, they're not doing anything special hiring all Hispanic people. That is what you see when you see landscaping companies. What do they say? You got rid of all of our strawberry pickers. Find us a white person who will pick strawberries. Like, that doesn't make any sense to me. They're not doing something extra. If you have a software company and you say we have all Hispanic people that we've hired and we're doing something different in the community that's giving money to Hispanic people in this situation, that would make sense. But I don't think it's the landscaping company.
Right, but that's not what the City of Houston program looked at. The City of Houston program works regardless of what industry we were looking at. So it would apply both to software and to landscaping and to purchase of goods. And so the question really becomes whether we're going to be willing, or one of the questions you would ask, not necessarily the question, is whether we're willing to basically take out past acts of discrimination and say that because of that, someone who's white or male can't get a job or a contract. And the Supreme Court, for better or worse, has not accepted that theory.
Let's remind you, we are speaking with Seth Chandler, a Law Foundation professor of law at the University of Houston Law Center. If you'd like to join the conversation, and we would love for you to, call or text 713-440-8870.
I want to go back to something else you said that I'm curious about, is that they don't have to show that they've been discriminated against to move this case forward. And I guess you're supposed to show that you have somehow been damaged or affected by this to be able to bring, you have to have what they call, is that standing?
That's standing, and absolutely they need standing. I think probably here they showed that they were close enough. That is, for example, the Midtown Contracting Organization, they had a 100-point system, and you lost 10 points if you were white. So that could very well have an effect. If all other things are equal, they've done an equally good job cutting the grass or whatever, that might be a determinative factor.
That point system.
Yes.
Do we know how long that's been in effect?
I believe it's been in effect since the Midtown thing was created. And that's one of the things that I find remarkable here is that the Supreme Court back in 2005 in the Gratz case out of the University of Michigan had held that you cannot use these very specific determinative point systems. You need to make a much more individualized inquiry in the education area, at least. But the city or the Midtown districting people wanted to use the simplicity of a point system moving forwards, and until this recent decision by Judge Hittner had been permitted to do so.
See, I guess I can see that point system as a problem here, especially when you apply it to what the law of the land is currently, that seems to fly right in the face of it, where other means or ways of making these decisions may not have been as explicit and caused this concern.
Well, also, it's the way it's framed. I mean, how does the Midtown organization get their funding? Where does their money come to them to be able to say, we're going to give this many people jobs? Like, is there a benefit to them having minorities? So then when you say that you lose 10 points if you're white, I could just as easily say you gain 10 points if you're a minority, because it brings us blank, blank, and blank.
Right, but I'm not aware that the Midtown organization was claiming that they got any particularly better results out of having this point system. The purpose of the system was to advantage, it was exactly what you want, which was to advantage minority and women contractors, but doing that through a point system that doesn't look at sort of the individual qualifications of the contractor is something that the Supreme Court has frowned on for 20 years.
And I want to remind folks as we talk about this that Seth isn't here as a representative of either side of it. He's here to help us parse the law and the legal issues surrounding the story that we're talking about. We had a comment come into us from Deal Hunter. Deal Hunter says, isn't it a discrimination giving grants to a specific race or ethnicity?
Sure, if you had a public grant that said it could only go to white people, I think that's clearly unconstitutional. I can't think of anything that would justify that, or that's labeled as only available for black people or Asian people or whatever. That is an explicit race-based system. I think maybe the thrust of the caller's question is to say that, well, isn't that what Houston and Midtown were doing? And I would say, no, not quite. It's not that Houston never contracts with white people or that they had set aside any particular project and said that this pothole must be fixed by a black company. That's not what they did. Rather, they made it a factor in awarding contracts, but in some sense, they did both have numeric goals. Houston, I believe, said that 19% of the subcontracts had to go to minority businesses, and the Midtown group had this 10-point deficit for being a white majority contractor.
Last question before we wrap this up. So is the idea behind all of this that simply all contracts need to go to just the best qualified applicant, regardless of any other outside factors? Who gives you the best price? Who gives you the best work? Boom.
That's overbroad. It says that race cannot be used as a basis for awarding contracts. Whether gender can be used, that's still being litigated. But what
I guess I would argue back that why does gender get that?
Because the federal government is still doing...
there's two reasons. First is the court has not decided that point yet, so it's an open question. And second,
we're going to try it right here in my court.
Is discrimination on the basis of gender is subject to a different legal standard called intermediate scrutiny, whereas discrimination on the basis of race is subject to strict scrutiny, and therefore reverse discrimination is much more difficult to justify than reverse discrimination based on gender, giving women a preference.
Seth Chandler is a law professor at the University of Houston Law Center. Thank you, as always, for coming in and helping us make sense out of what can be an extremely confusing world.
I try.
Thank you. We're going to take a quick break. When we continue, we're going to dig a little deeper into the life and career and the current motivations of Christina Wells and what she's up to as Hello Houston continues. continues. We'll be right back.
You can't tackle life's big challenges if you let the little ones get you down. That's why Houston Matters devotes the first Monday of each month to a sort of group moan session we call Houstonian Pet Peeves. It's a communal, cathartic experience, but not everyone can join us live at 9 a.m., and not every peeve occurs to you right then and there. That's okay. We welcome your gripes about life in Houston.
Meet Gamola, songwriter, world-class violinist, and award-winning multi-genre artist. We just took his keys for the day and gave him a Ride Metro fare card. Visit ridemetro.org/Gamola to learn more about his ride.
With PBS Passport. With a gift of $5 or more per month to Houston Public Media, you'll get access to PBS Passport that lets you watch your favorite programs anytime you want. Support the programs you love and enjoy them on your own schedule with PBS Passport. Make your gift now at houstonpublicmedia.org/donate.
Hey, it's Francis Lamb, host of The Splendid Table. This week we're doing some island hopping. It's the soulful Puerto Rican home cooking of Omi Hopper and the global flavors of Hawaii remade as easy home hacks by Top Chef star Sheldon Simeon. It's coming up on The Splendid Table.
Listen to The Splendid Table. That's Sunday at noon on News 88.7.
I'm Indira Lakshmanan. The new documentary An Eye for an Eye is a true crime thriller. An Iranian woman who murdered her abusive husband tries to stave off her own execution by paying blood money.
How much of the rage is really truly rage, or are they playing up this rage as a negotiation tactic?
That's next time on Here and Now.
Here and Now today at 1 o'clock after Hello Houston on News 88.7.
And now back to Hello Houston. To comment on today's topics, call or text 713-440-8870 or email us at talk@hellohouston.org. And now Ernie Manous and Christina Wells.
She wowed the judges on America's Got Talent, headlined the national 25th anniversary tour of the Broadway hit Chicago, and whether it's through her singing, acting, or motivating the masses, she has lit up any stage that she has been on across the country, as well as right here in Houston. Why, today, she's even co-hosting a popular NPR and YouTube streaming show called Hello Houston. Of course, there's only one person I could be speaking about. It's Christina Wells. Christina, you brought some fire to that last one.
You know what? I have opinions.
That,
She's spicy inside.
She is. But you know what? You've also done amazing work. And if people have been following your journey, of late, they have noticed a new, I don't know if you want to call it a challenge, a new mountain to climb. How would you
climb it? No, I would call it.
We even got you to sing on today's show.
I would call it a new piece of decoration, right? Like earrings, a wheelchair.
Yes. Something that maybe people weren't expecting to see you in. And you put up a video the other day that deeply touched me. Now, in full clarity, whatever you want to say, we've known each other for a very long time.
We have, very long time.
And I have often been impressed with what you say and how you look at the world around you. But this video really touched me, where you talked about this new episode in your life.
Yeah.
And people coming at it as, wow, how do you keep so positive? How do you sing in a chair? All that. And tell them what your answer was to that.
What's my other choice?
Yeah.
That's literally my answer. Like, I've had people to my face be like, how are you still happy? And then I have to reflect that clearly people haven't learned the lesson that happiness is not a trajectory, it's not a destination, it's a choice. And so every day I wake up and I've chosen to be happy. Because, I had a difficult childhood. I've had difficult years as an adult. I've shared a lot of those things online. And just this past few years have I gotten the opportunity to kind of live my dreams, do the things I always hoped I was able and capable to do. And so to be hit with this new hurdle has been difficult, but that doesn't change who I am as a woman. And I said it in the video. You know how long I've worked to get to this point in my life? Do you know how many butts I've wiped? And I didn't have any problem with all those butts I wiped, but I still had to do it.
As a nurse and a mother.
Oh, yeah, let me clarify.
Yeah.
And let me clarify again. Yeah, as a nurse, I've been a nurse for 22 years. As a mother, I've been a mother for 28 years now, my whole life. And I'm grateful to all of those things and I'm grateful to those challenges. But I got to this place by realizing that happiness is not something you should wait. Like I hear people say, when I get that new job, when I lose weight, once I get this car, I will be happy. And I don't say anything because, you got to learn that lesson on your own. But I learned a long time ago that when I wake up, I choose to be happy. Every single day. Do I think it sucks that I'm in a wheelchair? I do.
Yeah.
Do I dislike it? I dislike it greatly. Do I cry about it? Probably daily, if not more often than that. But does that mean I'm still not going to choose to be happy and still not be the woman that I have fought so hard to be? And this is something that I've said to people. We may feel comfortable advocating for other people. Let's say your children. You're going to say something for your kids, or maybe your patients or your clients or your spouse. I think it's okay to advocate for me. I deserve to be happy. I deserve to have a good life. And I deserve to have these challenges met with compassion, empathy, not pity, empathy. Because will I have a great outcome? Hopefully. But before you get to start to play the Rocky music and I'm in slow-mo and my wheels are busting off of my wheelchair and all this start to run, I have to go through this process.
Yeah.
And while I'm going through this process, I'm still going to be happy.
Yeah.
Even if that happiness sometimes looks like me doing a lot of shows because being on stage makes me feel better, or making a lot of clothes, or doing whatever it is because I don't want to feed myself to feel happy. I used to do that, #fat. And I don't want to do other unhealthy things that, you know what I'm saying? And not that, all coping mechanisms aren't good, but, how you cope with these things, right? So yes, this is my soapbox right now.
I want to remind everyone, first of all, if you want to call in and talk to Christina, we've put aside some time right now where you can call 713-440-8870. I also want to remind you all that Christina honored my request to sit down for an interviews a little while ago. That full interview is online. You can look it up. Just look up interviews and put in Christina Wells' name or my name. It'll come up and you can take a look at our story of talking about your whole life journey. And that includes what happened, American Idol, all of that, the success she has found later in life, and what a gift it was and how she's taken that gift and made so much out of it. But I also don't want people to think just because right now you are in this wheelchair and that you've had this change in your life that you've stopped doing what you do, because tomorrow night, if my timing is right, you are opening in Jesus Christ Superstar. It's just a short run.
Yes.
But you're playing King Herod.
I am.
It's
Isn't that
for,
exciting?
Sankofa Collective.
Sankofa
Collective. You can look them up online. It's going to be at the Deluxe Theater.
Yes, it is.
And it's only for five days.
Yeah, so it goes Friday night, 2 shows on Saturday, 2 shows on Sunday, and then Monday night, which we
4
would call
days.
Industry Night.
Industry Night. So you've got those chances to see you doing the role of King Herod. Jesus Christ Superstar, one of my favorite musicals of all time. I saw it as a kid. I saw the movie, fell in love with it, have always loved it. And I'm very curious to see. Now, it's interesting to see you playing King Herod.
Yes.
You'll always be my Mary Magdalene.
Look. Well, I think it's funny because I don't know if I've ever told you this, but I have 3 rules for all roles I take. Number 1, you either have to feed my soul, you have to feed my resume, or you have to feed my bank account.
Ah, okay.
And those are my 3 rules. And so whenever Ulrich Davis, who is both he is the artistic director of Sankofa Collective, and he's also directing the show, when he reached out to me last year, it was like, you know what, this sounds like something that would be really cool to put on my resume. And I think it would be a cool challenge for me to take on. Because usually, I joke, I play the big black girl that belts. And people are like, aren't you sick of the stereotype? And I'm like, not at all, darling. Not in one bit at all. So doing something so outside of my norm sounded really fun and exciting. And so, King Herod, but no changes to the story. I just happen to be King Herod.
Right.
That's it.
Yeah.
I'm just King Herod.
I buy it.
Okay.
You'll always be my queen.
But
you can also be my king, too, for this.
Thank you.
Tackling a song like that.
Mm-hmm.
So many have done it.
Yes.
It has become kind of the, I don't want to call it the stunt role, but it's like they'll put in celebrities in there and stuff. They want to, you bring it out, you hit a great song and knock it out of the park and everyone is just so happy.
Yeah.
Approaching that role, so many others have done it. What are you bringing Christina to it?
Well, I will tell you, and if you're a performer, listen to me. Don't listen to how other people do things because they're not you.
Yeah.
That's it. I'm Christina Wells. And that doesn't mean I'm better than or less than. I just have my own way of doing things. So I listen to a couple. I watch the movie, like you said, and I listen to a few. And it's usually gimmicky.
Yeah.
And I'm not really a gimmicky singer. I'm a singer. I can do a gimmick, don't get me wrong. But that's not usually my approach. And the other thing is for me is if you've ever watched me perform, you know that I am all about the story. Yeah. And so there's a story in that song. And I like to tell it. And when you get voice, you'll get it. But I'm going to tell that story.
Well, I'm going to tell you all a story really quickly. You can catch Christina as King Herod in Sankofa Collective Houston's current production of Jesus Christ Superstar Friday through Monday at the historic Deluxe Theater in Houston's 5th Ward. For more information, visit sankofacollectivehouston.com. But Christina's not just a guest. She's co-hosting with me today, so she's not going anywhere. I hope you won't go anywhere. We'll be back in just a few minutes with the second hour of the show and Current Obsessions. What are your current obsessions? Start sending them to us right now at talk@hellohouston.org.
Stay tuned. There's more Hello Houston on the way. For the latest in local news, subscribe to the Hello Houston daily newsletter at houstonpublicmedia.org. Hello Houston is a production of Houston Public Media. The opinions expressed by the guests of this program are solely their own and do not represent the views of management, staff, or underwriters of Houston Public Media. This is News 88.7.
Support for Houston Public Media comes from Miller Outdoor Theater, presenting Incredible India, Call of the Flute, produced by Indian Performing Arts Samskriti, Friday, August 22nd at 8 p.m. More at MillerOutdoorTheater.com.
11:59 here at News 88.7 of the warm day here in the Houston area. Today's high around 97 with sunny skies. Tonight, partly cloudy, the low 79. Tomorrow, more warm weather, the high around 96. Maybe some thunderstorms in the afternoon. We have 90 degrees, partly cloudy skies here at the University of Houston. Get HPM anytime on HPM Plus, free to download for smart TVs. This is your NPR station, KUHF Houston, News 88.7. It's a service of the University of Houston. It's 12 o'clock.
Just ahead on this hour of Hello Houston, under an executive order signed by Mayor Whitmire on Wednesday, many airport workers will be paid $20 an hour immediately, followed by additional raises in coming years, a significant hike from current hourly wages. We'll discuss this and more as we continue diving into the top headlines of the day. I'm Ernie Manous.
And I'm Christina Wells. When every candidate claims they're telling the truth, how can voters tell the difference between facts, spin, and political marketing? Political scientist Brandon Rottinghaus helps us sort it out.
Plus, it's Thursday, which could only mean one thing. Time for us all to start sharing our current obsessions. And we want to hear from you. Email them to us right now at talk@hellohouston.org.
Or call or text them to us at 713-440-8870.
Hello Houston is made possible in part by founding sponsors John Bradshaw and Kathy Sanders, and by gifts from listeners like you.
Live from NPR News in Washington, I'm Louise Schiavone. Conditions aboard the USS Abraham Lincoln, which is deployed in the Middle East, are in hot focus. The aircraft carrier has now logged more than 200 straight days at sea, amid reports of dwindling food supplies and overall deteriorating living conditions aboard. Top House Armed Services Committee Democrat Seth Moulton tells NPR's All Things Considered he's unable to verify reports that some sailors have tried to jump overboard, but in general, he's charging the Trump administration has now established a pattern of failing to protect troops in the region.
This is the second or third report of the administration ignoring the welfare of our troops. The first coming out of Kuwait, when numerous troops were killed because were not given adequate protection for Iranian drone attacks. And so this is a continued pattern with this administration. And it lays bare the fact, yet again, that they clearly had no plan going into this war with Iran and have absolutely no clue how to get out of it.
Democratic lawmakers are calling for an investigation. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth says these reports are, quote, completely misrepresented. The U.S. ambassador to Israel is condemning what he calls a horrific act of terror by Israeli settlers against Palestinians, and PR's Daniel Estrin has details.
A group of settlers has camped outside Palestinian homes in the village of Kusra for days. One of the homes under siege belongs to a U.S. citizen. Palestinian families have been trapped with restricted access to food and supplies. U.S. Ambassador to Israel Mike Huckabee says the U.S. asked Israeli forces to remove the settlers, whom he called Israeli terrorists. Israeli forces dismantled the settler tent Wednesday, but detained only one Israeli, former mayor of the village, Hani Odeh. He said Thursday the settlers were still there besieging the Palestinian families in the presence of the Israeli army. This comes during a spate of settler attacks and land takeovers. Daniel Estrin, NPR News, Tel Aviv.
Wholesale inflation cooled last month. NPR's Scott Horsley has more.
Prices at the wholesale level are climbing more slowly now, much like prices at the retail level. A new report from the Labor Department shows wholesale prices in July were up 4.7% from a year ago. That's a smaller annual increase than the 5.5% jump for the 12 months ending in June. Wholesale prices were flat between June and July. The news is likely to be welcomed by inflation fighters at the Federal Reserve, although prices are still climbing faster than the central bank would like. Investors are betting the Fed will feel less pressure to raise interest rates when policymakers meet next month. Still, bond markets are signaling that other interest rates on things like mortgages may go higher. Scott Horsley, NPR News, Washington.
Wall Street at this hour, the S&P 500 up 44 points. This is NPR.
Live from News 88.7 in Houston, I'm Tom Perumian. A 31-year-old man has been charged with unlawfully carrying a handgun inside Toyota Center 2 nights ago. Police say Joshua Biosa's decision to shut down the Don Toliver concert with only about 10 minutes left to go. Concertgoers were told to leave the building immediately without explanation as the lights to the arena came on. No injuries were reported. A roughly 20% spike in new student enrollment in Waller ISD has created a backlog in the registrar's office. Though the school year started on Tuesday, the district still had more than 300 applications to go through. Sarah Marcus, the chief communications officer for the district, calls it an all-hands-on-deck situation.
It's hard, and we wish we could get through it faster, but we are working through it as fast as we can.
The district is telling families it may take 5 to 7 business days before they can process a new student registration. That means hundreds of students in the district are at home waiting for their enrollment to be completed. Taking a look at sports, the Houston Texans are on the field tonight for their first preseason game of the year. It kicks off at Reliant Stadium against the LA Chargers. Now, most of the team starters are not expected to play, but kickoff is at 7 p.m. Meanwhile, tomorrow night, the Astros open up a weekend homestand against the Seattle Mariners. The Astros hold a 1.5-game lead in the AL West. Checking your weather, a slight chance of showers and thunderstorms this afternoon, otherwise mostly sunny with a high near 96 and a heat index of 106. Tonight, it'll be partly cloudy, low around 79. On Friday, 30% chance of showers and thunderstorms, otherwise sunny, high near 95. Heat index of 109. Watch out. Right now, partly cloudy, 94 degrees on the UH campus. Get more news and information. Go to HoustonPublicMedia.org. I'm Tom Perumian. News 88.7.
Support for NPR comes from NPR stations. Other contributors include United States Postal Service, dedicated to putting reliability at the core of USPS Ground Advantage to help businesses operate smoothly. More at USPS.com/groundadvantage.
Live from Houston Public Media and News 88.7, it's Hello Houston, an open forum on today's biggest stories affecting Houston and beyond. Call now, 713-440-8870, or let us know your thoughts on today's topics by emailing us at talk@hellohouston.org. And now, Hello Houston.
Hello. Ernie Manous with you. We're in the second hour. With me today in the guest host chair, the one and only Christina Wells. Hello. We were talking a little bit ago about what you're doing, that you're going to be in Jesus Christ Superstar this weekend. But something else, and you said, you're getting tired of seeing yourself everywhere. You are going to reprise your role as Ursula this holiday season for Theater Under the Stars at the Hobby Center.
I'm super excited. December 8th to December 24th at the Hobby Center with Theater Under the Stars. I can't wait to be Ursula. I can't wait to find out who everyone else is going to be.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, because that's one of the things when you get pre-cast, you don't know who everyone else is. And so very excited. And I'm excited to come to the role, even in my chair. Like, we were kind of talking.
We were just talking about it. So you're moving forward with the chair, doing the role.
Yeah.
But it's Ursula. This could really open some new opportunities and ways you go at it.
Well, I want to say one thing. Whenever I contacted all the directors, because I have productions all the way to next summer, and I need to be like, do you still want me in a wheelchair? And I called and talked to Dan Connectus, and I said to him,
Artistic director at Theater Under the Stars.
Exactly. Thank you. I still got 2 good arms and a leg and I can sing. This is what I said to him. And I go, because I really want to still be Ursula. And I said, and I'm 100%, dedicated to being Ursula. And he goes, Christina, we're 1,000% committed to you being Ursula. Aww. And I cried, I won't lie. And I was like, the fact that 8 years ago, I couldn't, 9 years ago, couldn't get an appointment to go in and be seen until when Dan got there, he opened the door to Tuts for me. Yeah. And the fact that he's that committed to me performing Little Christina from Pasadena, getting to be Ursula in big old Houston, Texas.
Christina from Pasadena.
It's the truth. You see her in her champion years, and I'm glad you are, but you didn't see her in those hard ones when she was struggling. And so I am Little Christina from Pasadena inside of this great big shell.
So we look forward to that?
Yes. The laughter will ensue.
I want to tell you other little business I've got to get to. We are not in campaign right now, but when opportunity knocks, you open the door. There was a knock at our door today, and Laura McWilliams, in memory of Bradley McWilliams, made a gift to this station of $50,000. But with all gifts, there's a little string attached. It is a matching dollar-for-dollar gift to the station to motivate and encourage folks in our community to also make a donation. So right now, we are in a dollar-for-dollar match. Anybody who can make a gift right now at 888-909-0887 will be matched dollar for dollar by Laura McWilliams, and all the way up to, if we can get all of her $50,000 matched, that will be $100,000 to the station. That will get us to the goal of the resiliency fund we've been talking about for a year, which fills the gap left by the federal budget cuts of $4.4 million. We're that close. You can make it happen right now. 888-909-0887 or go online to HoustonPublicMedia.org and look for the resiliency tracker. Click that and make that donation, and every donation will be matched dollar for dollar up to $50,000. Give us $100,000, we'll be in.
Yes.
So that's coming up. I do want to take a look at, we were talking about the legalization of marijuana. We had a poll up on our website. Mm-hmm. The question was, or up on our YouTube channel, I should say. The question was, should Texas legalize recreational marijuana? The choices were yes, statewide legalization. The next one was decriminalized, but don't legalize. Then it was no, keep it illegal, or not sure, need more info. I'm interested in this. Not sure, need more info got 0% of the vote. Mm-hmm. So you folks feel like you know what you want. And what you wanted was, yes, statewide legalization. 70% of our respondents were there. Decriminalization, but don't legalize was 17%, and no, keep it illegal was just 13% of those responding.
And I know it's a small group, but it's pretty representative of how people feel.
Oh, yeah. I think we've hit a point where policy and government has not caught up with public opinion and community wants. And
exactly.
We got a text that said, not only do prisons remain populated with marijuana use illegal, illegal. I don't know what they meant to say there. It is populated with more nonviolent criminals who must be easier to manage.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that, money per day, because it's, prison for pay.
Yeah, that's very true. We're also getting a lot of comments over in our chat group, which happens underneath the live stream in YouTube of our show. Feel free to go there, watch us live, and join our HuTubers. They're a very active group, have a lot to say, and we love hearing from them. It's also Thursday, which means Current Obsessions. Start sharing those right now. You can share them in the chat group. You can email them to us at talk@hellohouston.org, or you can also just give us a call and we start talking about it in just a few minutes. We want to know, what are your current obsessions? Coming up on the show, something I am currently obsessed with. We're going heavily into campaign season with a big election, big voting coming in November. A lot of information is being thrown our way. I call it information, but some of it may not be be informative. It may be lies, it may be misleading. How do you parse what is real and what isn't in today's political environment? Brandon Rottinghaus will be joining us to help us understand political spin, evaluating candidate claims, and make sense of campaign messaging. That's all still coming up. But as always, I'm going to take a breath now and say, as always, we like to start the show and the top of each hour with the headlines of the day. Christina, what have you got for me?
Under an executive order signed by Mayor John Whitmire on Wednesday, many airport workers will be paid $20 an hour immediately, followed by additional raises in coming years. A significant hike from current hourly wages as low as $15. As strong as our city is, it is only as strong as our workers are, Whitmire said. Organized labor works. The Texas chapter of the Service Employees International Union, the SEIU, represents many of the covered employees at the city's 2 airports. They work across passenger service, cleaning, and bagging operations. The order requires vendors and contractors at the city-owned airports to meet the new wage standards. A spokesperson for SEIU said the union expects the wage hike to benefit more than 35,000 workers. What are your thoughts on the hike? Call or text us 713-440-8870.
Okay, I am all in favor of folks getting a raise. I am concerned about how you pay for it, as I am with a lot of things. And I have often said this before. I don't understand how the finances of a city, of a county, of a state work, because it seems like prices keep going up. We need to match these prices. Where does the money come from? It comes from us. What happens with taxes? All of that. But that being said, there's a way to balance these things out, and I think this is an important move. Okay, Christina, I have a feeling you have a thought on this.
I do have a lot of thoughts on this. You know, my mother used to have a saying, you don't get a gold star for doing what you're supposed to do. At $15 an hour, you are under the poverty level in this country for a family of 4. $15 an hour is $30,000. Even if you had a family of 3, it's only $29,000 is the federal poverty level. And so in giving them this raise, I understand what you're saying about how will the money come. Like, this is long overdue.
Yes.
You know, people who work at the airports, this isn't McDonald's jobs. You know what I mean? These are jobs, like he's saying, all different levels of care. These are not 17-year-olds and 18-year-olds who have these jobs. These are adults, and adults have families. And the families they need to support. If you look at it, $30,000 before taxes. Then you take out taxes. I live in a very modest 2-bedroom apartment, but $1,200 to $1,600 is what it costs to have rent there. Once you take out rent, you have less than $500 a month for a car, insurance, food, haircuts, clothes, like doctor's visits. I could keep going on and on and on. So this does need to happen, but it's very odd to me that these kind of things happen in a year where voting and making people happy is occurring. You know, I'm just going to say it.
We talk about that often. You know, that's part of what I want to talk with Brandon about when he comes up in the next segment is so much is thrown out there right now. How much of it really is policy change and concern for people? And how much is it to say, hey, we're here, vote for us?
How much is it to say we could have done this, but we're waiting to do it till it benefits us? Because right now, a big topic of discussion across all social media is Mayor Mandami. Up in New York, who is not up for any kind of an election, who already won his election, is continuing to do things for his constituents and for his city. And so that's the stuff that the mayors now, and actually all political officials now, are being held against. People are literally saying, if he could do it, you mean this could have been happening all along, but you waited until it benefited who? And so versus making sure it always benefits Hugh.
Right. Earl Grey T-Cat says in our chat group, wages need to go up because there's clearly no way to make things come down in price. I wish there was a way to mandate prices to come back down. This is something I've talked about often on the show, is that whenever we're in a crisis situation and prices go up, once that crisis situation goes away, I rarely see those prices come back down. They've seen that the community will support that price, and they're going to keep it there.
Exactly. Like, people say it all the time. I mean, I was trying to come up with ideas for a show, and I was like, I don't want the prices to be above this. And they're like, well, people will pay it. And I'm like, that shouldn't be why we charge it.
Right.
Like, I want to charge based on fairness, on what I'm providing. And I'm talking about a service. But even if you work at a grocery store and you're like, we had to raise the price of blank because it got more expensive for us to have it in stock, versus, ooh, all the other stuff is higher and they're letting that be okay. Let's make everything else higher. Yeah. And that's price gouging. And like he's saying, we should have caps on that. That's where corporations and businesses need to be held accountable for the fact that we're humans and humans need certain things to survive. And those things shouldn't come at a higher price just so profit margins can grow.
Right. And the other part, too, we talk about, and I'm not going to say any names, but there was a well-known, as I understand the story, well-known store where the employees there, the store itself understands how little the employees make, so they give classes on how to apply for food stamps and assistance for their employees. So they're acknowledging the fact these people don't make enough money, yet they're a billion-dollar corporation.
Yes.
That's where I have problems.
Well, even worse than that is, like, for instance, how many times have I applied for jobs? And one of the questions is, are you on SNAP or are you on benefits? Because they get more money in tax breaks, all different kinds of things for hiring those people. Well, when you hire those people, and I've been one of them, I'm very proud to say I was on food stamps as a child, and I was on food stamps multiple times as an adult when I was going to school, when I was trying to figure out how to make ends meet, single mother, 2 children. And I would use those things as a stepping stone in order to get to a better place. So if businesses looked at it that way, I want to hire more people on SNAP, right? Which that's, supplemental nutrition assistance programs for those who aren't familiar. Right. People who need help with food so that I can help them get into a better place and make more money so they don't need help with food.
Right. And the problem with prices going up is that wages need to go up. If the city is going to raise wages for airport workers, I'm all for that. I just want to see how we're going to pay for everything. We keep hearing about, and like you said, in election years, boy, oh boy, they can make a lot of gifts and give a lot of benefits to people. Right. But are they fiscally responsible in doing it?
Yeah, but I think the truth of the matter is that they're like, hey, we're not going to, and I mean, this may be controversial, but I don't care. Hey, we're not going to buy a golden toilet this month so we can give raises to people so I can get reelected. We'll buy the golden toilet next month.
Right.
Or even if I've worked at companies or I've been a part of organizations where they're like, we need to use up our budget so we don't lose it next year.
Mm-hmm.
So there's always money available. If I didn't know that now, if I didn't understand that before this year, I definitely know it now. As I watch the news and I read stories and I'm like, where do these billions and trillions and millions of dollars come from as I make out my paycheck? I mean, my check to the IRS. But you know what I'm saying? So whenever I look at this, my first thought is not, where's the money going to come from? My first thought is, finally.
Right. Well, it's an interesting topic. We've definitely given you our thoughts on this. What are your thoughts? Give us a call, 713-440-8870. Call and let us know what you think of this topic. We're seeing some activity over in our chat group. If you want to join in there, feel free to do it. I'm going to jump ahead right now to the D3 story. Christina, if you want to take me into that. That's our inside jargon.
That's our inside. I know. Look, I know the inside stuff now, guys.
Yeah.
All right. Google's new phone is all in on AI as Google unveiled its Pixel 11 line of smartphones yesterday. Now, the new line, which cost $100 more than the previous generation of phones, features minimal hardware tweaks and includes a software update that leans on Gemini intelligence and new AI features. Now, that's likely to position it as a major competitor to the forthcoming iPhone with AI-powered Siri, which will also be built around Gemini models. Now, do you want more AI on your phone? And are you a Google, Samsung, or Apple person, and why? Call or text us at 713-440-8870.
Yeah, I think the choice between either Apple or I'm an Android user, which then falls into the other systems. And you know what? The AI world that is surrounding us more and more and more, there are benefits to it. There are definitely problems with it. I kind of like to be in control of what I do and where I look and what I find on my phone, but I do find it helpful whenever I type in a question, all of a sudden it gives me an AI summation of it, and I can pop over there and look at it. Should it be all over my phone? It's a little concerning.
My son actually gave me a really good understanding. He's currently finishing his degree in computer software engineering, and he was helping me to understand that AI in engineering is almost a necessity versus AI in our day-to-day life. You know, like you just said, a little autocorrect. I like a little of that. When my phone suddenly lights up and is like, do you want to do this? Why are you listening to me?
Yeah.
What are you doing? You're a phone. Go sit down. Like, that's my only thing is whenever AI starts to get intrusive. And I'll be very blunt in saying, you know, I'm a big Google person. I have an iPhone and I have an Android phone, business and personal. But I'm a big Google person on my computer. I have a Google Drive. And a lot of times when that Gemini stuff be coming up, I don't like her.
Yeah.
I don't like her.
I don't
she
like
don't do what I want. Like, I know you got to train him or something, but I don't like her. And I'd be closing her. She'd be like, hey, don't no, I don't want it.
Yeah.
No, thank you. And so I think it just depends. Like, I like Siri sometimes until she makes me mad. Same thing with, my little friend Alexa. So I think it just depends on what you like to have and how much help you want to have on your phone.
Yeah. Android user, one of our, my British computer guy says he's an Android user. Less AI on my phone. I want the choice.
Me too.
Yeah. Yeah. I never got into the Apple world because the Appleverse seemed to have too much control in too many different directions. And I think with Android, I have more control over it. Will I be upgrading? Well, just, I guess 3 months ago, I had to buy a new phone. I was just simply surprised how expensive they were.
Oh, yes.
I'm old enough to remember when, if you signed up for our service, you can get a phone for a penny.
Oh, my gosh.
What happened to those days?
I had a friend, we were talking the other day, and we would get a couple gallons of gas, 99 cents a gallon.
Yeah.
And at that time, cigarettes were 99 cents a pack.
Yeah.
And we would drive around the city when we were 18, and we thought we were so cool. And now, like you said, things are so expensive now.
We have a poll up on our YouTube chat group. What kind of phone are you using right now? Apple, Android, Google Pixel, or other? Or I don't have a smartphone.
Whatever. Don't tell stories, people.
We got another comment that came in. I miss OnePlus, HTC, and other monitor major phones. I'm still using my OnePlus 8 from 2020. It's not made itself obsolete, unlike iPhones. I think it's interesting when they push us toward, now this is over. You can't use it anymore.
You know what they're talking about, planned obsolescence,
Yep,
right? And this idea that every time you do an upgrade, they decrease the capability of your phone so that as time passes, by the time the new iPhone comes out, you will naturally say, I need a new phone.
Right. Well, I kept mine way too long before I upgraded to the new one. Something we're not going to keep too long waiting, and that is Brandon Rottinghaus. He's joining us in the next segment. We're going to be talking about understanding campaigning, political ads, what it all means, and where to find the truth. Right here on Hello Houston, coming up right after this break.
We know you value Houston Public Media. That's why you're watching right now. So take the next step and become a new member of the station you rely on. Every gift makes a difference. And what matters most right now is supporting the station that brings you the news and information you rely on. It only takes a minute to make a big difference. So join as a new member today at houstonpublicmedia.org/donate or call 800-364-8300.
Power outages are inconvenient at best. They are also, though, a symptom of a stressed out power grid. One possible solution? Solar panels installed for free.
Having the power actually produced in our community is really valuable for resiliency.
I'm Kai Rizdal. When the power grid gets local. Next time on Marketplace.
Listen to Marketplace right after All Things Considered at 6:30 here on News 88.7.
I think over the long run, the thing that's sort of guaranteed is that if the progressive left becomes strong enough in the Democratic Party, it is going to change the Democratic Party one way or another. If the mainstream of the party resists it, that's when you have the opportunity for a real hostile takeover like what happened to the Republicans.
I'm Natalie Kitroeff. That's Today on the Daily from the New York Times.
The Daily tonight at 7 after Marketplace on News 88.7.
Support comes from the 2026-2027 Imprint Brown Reading Series, featuring Hernan Diaz, Emily St. John Mendel, Claudia Rankin, Colson Whitehead, and others. Season tickets and more at imprint.org.
And now back to Hello Houston. To comment on today's topics, call or text 713-440-8870 or email us at talk@hellohouston.org. And now, Ernie Manous and Christina Wells.
Campaign season can bring a flood of ads, promises, and political claims. But how do you know what's real and what's spin? From campaign mailers to social media, voters are constantly being asked to separate fact from fiction. That includes recent outreach like State Rep James Tallarico's Black Town Hall, which has sparked conversations about how candidates connect with voters and shape their messages. Joining us now to tell us more is Brandon Rottinghaus, professor of political science at the University of Houston and co-host of Party Politics. Brandon, welcome to Hello Houston.
Hey, thanks, Christina.
Okay, first let's start off with the fact is there any legal guidelines on what you can say in political advertising?
Well, obviously, there are some things that can't be done. The First Amendment will protect certain kinds of actions and certain kinds of speech, but it won't protect all. So there is that limitation. But mostly campaign ads don't get that close to being problematic. They typically do things like stretch the truth. Making promises you can't keep is not unconstitutional. But for sure, I think voters have to use their common sense when it comes to it. So the short answer to your question is not really. There basically are not many limits to what people can say in these ads, but they have to be credible. They have to be connected, and they have to show the candidates messages and issues that people might care about. So there's an incentive for the campaign to be realistic in terms of what they claim and the kind of things they're promising.
I want to go back to the word you just used, credible. What do you mean by that in today's world?
It's a tough balance. Obviously, people who aren't well known have to make claims that they're going to do things that maybe aren't that realistic. You also see even incumbents saying that they're going to enact certain kinds of policies that may not necessarily be doable. There's a lot of moving parts and lots of things that have to be put into place in order for particular kinds of issues to be functional. So you're talking about tax cuts earlier. I think that's a good example. You're talking about giving money to certain groups, raises to certain groups. That means there has to be budget issues. So, promises are often made during campaign season in a mode to try to get people to see not just sort of what you might do, but also kind of general approach to how you think of your time in office or what your time in office might be like. So you have to present that degree of credibility that you can get it done. And that means that you've got to be persuasive in terms of what that message is, how it resonates with the larger kind of political issues involved, and the kind of voters you're targeting.
Christina mentioned James Tallarico in her intro, and it brings to mind, this is one of the reasons I wanted to do this segment, was an ad that's out there where it's an anti-James Tallarico ad where they keep repeating, James Tallarico says there should be a welcome mat at our southern border. And if anyone has seen what James Tallarico said, he said there should be a welcome mat at our southern border, but there should be a lock on the door. But they leave that part out. And leaving that part out changes what the first part of it says. So they are misrepresenting what he says. And should there be any guidance on whether or not you are allowed to misrepresent a position? There's plenty of positions a candidate could have that you don't agree with, but isn't that deceitful to the voters to not give them the complete context?
Or even in maligning their opponents, not just misrepresenting them, but directly saying bad things about them. Like, what are the guidelines for those types of situations?
Yeah, both good questions. It's conceivable that the organizations airing these ads can say they won't add them or won't air them if they don't think that they're truthful. Campaigns have often argued against the ads that their opponents might run by saying that they're not proper, they're not correct, they're wrong, they're slanderous even. So there are obviously the sort of stopgap where you can see organizations just won't add those kinds of things to the air. So it's possible that's one fail-safe, but it's really hard in this moment where we're essentially battling in a partisan fashion. These street fights oftentimes become pretty nasty, and people will use whatever they can to try to get ahead. So there's, I think, not many restrictions in terms of how you might bend the truth or manipulate what a person says. We're definitely going to see a lot of this, but we live in a competitive world, and the whole point of campaigns is that you are in a responsive capacity so that you can use that ad against your opponent. And some people have. You've seen historical examples of somebody being cut off in an ad, and maybe then the campaign will come back and run the full language, and it'll make the other campaigns seem like they're simply not with it and that they're not credible, like we said earlier. In terms of the question about maligning your opponent, that definitely is problematic. We see a lot of name calling. We see a lot of mud throwing. There aren't many restrictions on that, but we do know from scholarship on this that when a person engages in this kind of name calling, it tends to reflect negatively on that person who's doing the name calling. So again, back to the kind of credibility argument, you have to be able to present yourself well. In the campaign's course that I I teach, we try to kind of give people a sense of the ethical standards that they should employ when it comes to these ads. You want to be truthful, you want to be honest, you want to be as forthright as you can. You want to have key information presented in ways that's credible and that's factual, and that's the best way to get to voters. If you try to lie or manipulate, deceive voters, they can oftentimes see right through it.
Yeah, but I mean, and I hear exactly what you're saying, and it sounds like a great ideal. As we watch in this world, that's not what's happening. And my concern is you are in an active campaign on either side to miseducate the voters so that they will vote for you on things that aren't accurate. And I guess that's my concern, is this propagating of false information out there so that you win an election, where you should be winning elections on a thoughtful, positive truthfulness of what either you stand for or your opponent does that you disagree with. That's what we should be voting for. And I say all that because that's just as pie in the sky as what you're saying. We both want this wonderful world that doesn't exist. But on the flip side of it, should we just take off all guide rails and say it's a campaign, let the candidates say what they want to say, and if it's something negative about you, it's your responsibility to correct that message?
Well, Ernie, I think that you and I share an optimism, and I think we have to. This is the point in baseball season when we have to be as optimistic as we can. I think that you're right. Obviously, the kind of truth is sometimes bent in ways that are problematic, but we have to let voters be sufficiently able to handle this. There's this old saying that says you can fool some of the people some of the time, but you can't fool all the people all of the time. And the hope is in a democracy that with more people participating, that they'll see through those things. But that becomes harder and harder in a world, like you all were saying earlier, that it exists with AI, where things can be changed and manipulated in ways that may not be perceptible. Or you've got candidates willing to be unscrupulous and make claims that aren't true. This is always going to be a problem in campaigns, and it always has been a problem in campaigns, back to the original kind of set of presidential races that we saw that shaped our nation. So there's no way to get around this, but we do have to put faith in voters to be able to make this. Now, there are opportunities for people to be able to see through what's going on. You can do the fact checking on your own. There are a lot of sources out there. Obviously, HPM is a great resource for these kinds of things. So we have to rely on people to help us to navigate this complicated world. But I think if we put faith in voters, that they can generally be trusted to see through what they want to see through. Now, some people won't be convinced of anything if they're checked on these kinds of facts or misinformation. There's a lot of scholarship that suggests that there are people who are willing to believe misinformation because of partisan reasons and will never change their mind, regardless of how much factual information they're given. So there is a small fraction of people who are so partisan aligned that they won't think about credibility or information or access in those ways. But we do have to hope that the vast majority of voters are playing by these rules and that we can trust campaigns to handle things accordingly.
True. Let's remind you we are speaking with Brandon Rottinghaus, professor of political science at the University of Houston and co-host of Party Politics, about how to recognize political spin, evaluate candidates' claims, and make sense of campaign messaging. If you'd like to join the conversation, and we would love for you to, call or text 713-440-8870.
I want to go back to something you were just saying, and it makes me think about products that are advertised in the media, and that there is a sense of there's some guidelines on that, but that products have to have listed on the side the ingredients that are actually in the product. We do, or at least used to do, more of making sure that information that was put out to the masses was accurate and informative. But in political advertising, it doesn't stand by the same rules.
That's true. Now, like I said, there's fact checking that happens from members of the media, so that's one fail-safe that we can employ. We also have federal regulations that require people to disclose where certain information is coming from. So the funder is a huge effect on this, so people can look up to see kind of where an ad that looks a little strange might be coming from, and you can essentially follow that through and see that it's being promoted by people who have a particular point of view. So that's another kind of success opportunity to be able to see where these problems might be, or where you might find some of that information. But yeah, it is a challenge to be able to hold people accountable on these matters, and there aren't many guidelines there. Now, the sort of political consultant class has got a set of regulations that they use to try to employ ethics in these campaigns. And I think for the most part, people are using it. But we are in a digital age, and a lot of times the information isn't coming from the campaign or a party or a PAC. It's coming from the person, sometimes coming from nefarious actors. And that means sometimes people have to be able to see through this. And I think the more we get into this world where it's harder to see truth from fiction, it'll magnify the kinds of problems that you're talking about.
Yeah, we talk about AI and the images and what you can change in the videos and make people say and speak. And this is going to get very confusing and very complicated.
Well, I think even more a different direction is something I've been noticing, and I would love to hear your thoughts on it, is it used to be that, candidates wanted to say only the right things. There was a tippy-toeing act, right? What do you think about abortion? Oh, tiptoe, tiptoe, tiptoe. But now I'm seeing candidates coming out and saying things that are extremely divisive. Like I saw a gentleman the other day, and he was talking about death penalty to women who, even if they're getting an abortion for medical care, taking away the women's rights to vote, and these things that are obviously trying to target a very specific demographic of people. Two things. One is if you throw mud, there's mud on your hands. And the other thing is that I like to try to find information maybe to compete with what I think. Am I right? Is this correct? But a lot of people look for people who also think the wrong thing too. Like I saw a guy talking, he said him and a friend were arguing about song lyrics, and he's telling him, no, this is the lyrics. And the guy, instead of looking up what are the lyrics to the song, the guy wrote in the wrong lyrics he believed, and he found lots of people who thought that was true too. And he said, here's his proof.
I know the difficulty of tracking song lyrics. I'm a 90s kid, so it's hard to remember what Nirvana was saying and why. But I think you're right. And I do think that there's real value in this. So as much as the digital world we live in can create these kinds of problems, it can also solve a lot of these problems. We can track information in ways now that we never could before. So that's a real plus. But getting back to your main point, I think you're right. I mean, the problem here isn't so much about what candidates are doing. It's really the incentives that they have. That is that a lot of these districts are drawn in such a way as to be maximized by party. So there's not much of a disincentive to sort of make a general claim, to sort of, as you say, kind of tiptoe around an issue that might not be certified or solidified in your district. People are on the fence on some things, but in a district that's 100% in favor of one particular policy or the other, there's no reason for a candidate not to just kind of go all the way on that. So that's a different problem, a related issue to the campaigning, where you can get away with things now that you couldn't before. You can be extreme. You can make these kinds of outrageous claims. You can use digital spots that are, sort of very uncommon, that are, very angry. And those things are going to sell to a particular kind of voter. The benefit, of course, to having competitive elections is that we're seeing more competition, and the better competition is going to out. And so I think that's in large part what you're seeing in primaries across the country the last couple of months. You're seeing people look up, say they don't like what they're seeing, and they want to find somebody who fits that better. So for somebody to make these kinds of outrageous claims that don't seem to fit, or make promises that they have, they can't keep, and that's known to be something that they can't keep, or they've been in office for a long time and they make promises that they should have done 20 years ago. These are all things that voters are now, I think, really unhappy with. So it depends a bit on the moment, but I do think we're in a period right now where people are really scrutinous of what politicians are saying.
Yeah. Okay, I'm going to make you real excited with this question. Take me back historically. Is this something we are dealing with that others didn't? Or are there issues at different points during history of our country and elections where this is nothing new?
We've seen lots and lots of negative campaigns, beginning with the very first set of presidential
I'm going to pause
campaigns.
you right there, though, and say add into negative complete falsehoods. I understand the negativity, but the altering the truth to create the landscape you want and then putting forward your narrative.
I think this is very much the way that the nation has been developed. So it's not surprising that this is the kind of continuation of it. In some ways, what we're seeing is less problematic than it was. So for instance, in 1800, there were claims that Thomas Jefferson was going to steal people's Bibles. So people were hiding their Bibles, burying them in yards, because they thought that the kind of atheist model was going to take over. It was outrageous and totally untrue. But this is something that was bevied by some of the opponents of Thomas Jefferson, and it just stuck. So it definitely has been a framework and a fabric of how the American political system has developed, and it's really only gotten worse from there. But again, I think that people are smart enough to look through these kinds of things and see that the kind of claims sometimes that are made just simply aren't realistic. They aren't credible, and we have to trust the voters are going to be able to see through it.
Historically, have there been attempts to try and rein in this kind of behavior that have either gone nowhere or have just crashed and burned terribly?
You do see some efforts from parties to try to develop messages that are appealing beyond just the party. Now, candidates themselves, of course, have got a lot of entrepreneurship, and so are able to talk about things that they care about independent of what the party cares about. But there is a strategic element to a lot of this that does, I think, hem in some of the things people might otherwise want to say. Now, it doesn't always work, and people are still making outrageous claims about, various groups or policies or their opponents. But there have been times where parties have been stronger and more willing to say, look, we have to get on the same page. We have to stay organized in terms of message. And usually those are the times, like now, when you've got a very highly polarized electorate, you've got an opportunity for one party to be able to win because of negative feelings about the other party. So this is a moment, I think, where, like I said, you're seeing a lot more unity in terms of how to approach things, but also you're seeing the efforts from parties to say, look, if we can keep unified, then we can win. Both parties are trying to make that claim. The discussion the last couple of weeks has been, can Ken Paxton, for instance, rally Republicans? Can James Tallarico build a coalition to be able to put the Democrats back together, despite the kind of nasty primary? That's really what they're looking for. So looking for opportunities to be able to rally and to pull things back together. And that serves as a check on some more outrageous discussion and commentary.
But I think a big thing now, I appreciate what you're saying, that we want to trust people to be able to educate themselves and vote, but people are voting against their own interests. Instead of saying, this is what will help me, they're saying, this is what will hurt them, and I want to hurt them, and so that's how I want to vote. Even in the situation with Paxton and Tallarico, I think, and this is just my opinion, 20 years ago, we talk about, Obama and the tan suitor, of course, the drama of the Clinton administration. Right now, Paxton has, and I don't want to bring it up, but he has a very dark and sinister current situation with things that he's done. And people are like, I don't care. I don't care because I want him to do these things, versus this idea of Tallarico running on ethics and morals and believing in equality and saying, yes, I'm a Christian, but also, and understanding that freedom of religion is one of our one of the amendments in the Constitution, and we all have that right. And so I think that's the difference now. Especially Texans. We'll just talk about Texans. Texans, are we voting based on, like you said, because we're educating ourselves and because we're learning what will improve our lives? Are we voting because we're agreeing with someone who also dislikes the people we don't like, and we're voting against our own interest in order to try to harm someone else? Until we find out that, guess what? The leopards will eat your face. You will not be excluded when it comes to the time. Like, if you think that, they're just going to get that kind of immigrant, let me show you these 3,000 stories. They're only going to get that kind of business, let me show you these 10,000 stories. And so I think that's the difference right now in the voters. I don't think voters today, as far as the age ranges that are older than, let's say, 25 or 30, not trying to say which generations, right, are actually voting for their interest. I think they're more often voting against other people's interests so they can feel better about themselves, versus these younger generations are very much, and I think this is where DSA and democratic socialism is coming from, which is the very aggressive idea of voting in your own interest, and oftentimes that looks like socialism.
Yeah, I think you have definitely pointed out something that creates problems in electorates. That's that you've got what we call affective polarization. That's the kind of tribalism, us versus them mentality that really does have implications for accountability and definitely shapes a lot of how people think about the electorate. I do think that's happening, and I know for sure that we're going to see a lot of that. But you also are seeing, I think, a moment where people are looking more commonly about the kind of things that politicians are claiming. Are they really going to help you or not? And I think the fact that in the last couple of election cycles, big promises have been made and they haven't been delivered is a problem for Republicans who have made these kinds of claims to say that they're going to make these things better, and people don't really feel it. Maybe on paper it's working, but at least in terms of people's pocketbooks, it hasn't. So I think your point is well taken. And I do also think that we're in a moment where people are really looking hard at this. You see polling that just came out today that suggests, at least in Texas, that people think the state's on the wrong track. That's a rare thing.
Yeah.
Typically, the last 15 years, it's been people think that Texas is on the right track. But you see also members of the Republican Party who have been elected for more than 15 years who were underwater. Their approval is lower than disapproval.
Yep.
So that's definitely, I think, a signal that just people are fed up. And partisanship can only go so far when you can't put food on the table.
Quickly, before we run out of time, we did have a comment came in from Tony, wanted to know what races do we need to watch in the state house races and the house races? What should we be looking at?
Well, I am definitely in the zone on this. There are lots of interesting races statewide. The polling, like I said, suggests that some of them are very close. So, the Senate race is the most important, the most visible, but don't sleep on the governor's race. Don't sleep on the controller's race. For lieutenant governor, also extremely powerful. There's a lot of opportunity there for Democrats to pick up the seats, and there's definitely some movement in terms of where Democrats are. In terms of House districts, there aren't a lot of competitive U.S. House districts, but some of them are potentially able to be flipped. So some of the ones in South Texas are worth watching. This is in keeping with the question about what the Latino vote will do. They had supported Donald Trump in big numbers in 2024, and so we'll see if that rebound is happening for Democrats in 26. Some of the polling suggests it is, so it's worth watching a lot of those races south of us to see how that plays out, because that'll really affect the balance of power in Washington.
Well, it'll be interesting to watch, and I know you'll be watching it very closely and sharing it all with us as it happens. Brandon Rottinghaus is a professor of political science at the University of Houston, just also happens to co-host Party Politics right here on Houston Public Media. Brandon, thank you so much for joining us today.
Hey, thanks, Ernie.
We're going to take a quick break. Coming up, our current obsession. So get sharing. You can either text or call us 713-440-8870 or email talk@hellohouston.org. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
There is so much news to cover.
It's not just your car. It's the one that brought your kids home from school, took you cross-country, held memories, laughter, even a few breakdowns. When it's time to let go, give your car a new purpose. Donate it and turn memories into meaningful support for this station. Plus, you'll enjoy free and easy pickup, potential tax benefits, and a simple donation process. Your gift supports the programs you and your family love. Donate today and help keep public media strong. Call or donate online.
Public Affairs Committee is increasingly under fire for the way it spends on elections. But there's also a lot of misinformation about who its donors are.
Now it seems like AIPAC has somehow become the symbol of everything that's wrong with money and politics.
That story on All Things Considered from NPR News.
Listen to All Things Considered. It starts at 3 o'clock this afternoon here on News 88.7.
Houston Public Media is licensed to the University of Houston System, governed by the UH Board of Regents. Information about open meetings, dates, times, and locations is online at uhsystem.edu.
Support for Houston Public Media comes from St. Arnold Brewing Company, a place for corporate events on tap. Meeting rooms, AV equipment, and full catering available. More at starnold.com. Support also from Chariot Energy, a member of Hanwha USA, Retail Energy USA, a retail electricity provider offering simple, sustainable energy plans to residential and commercial customers. Details and plan options available at chariotenergy.com.
And now back to Hello Houston. To comment on today's topics, call or text 713-440-8870 or email us at talk@hellohouston.org. And now Ernie Manous and Christina Wells.
Well, we put a poll up a little bit ago, and the question in that poll was, what kind of phone are you using right now? The choices were Apple, Android, Google Pixel, or other, I don't have a smartphone. 8% other, they don't have a smartphone. I'm guessing 8% mostly is other, not that they don't have a phone.
I agree.
Yeah. The other choices, Google Pixel was 8% also. Who won, Apple or Android? What do you think?
100% Apple.
You're 100% correct. 59% have Apples, and only 25% of us have Android phones. Interesting side note, the numbers are slightly off that I'm going to give you, but the idea is correct. About 70% of the world uses Android phones, and a smaller percent, only about 26%, use Apple phones. But in the U.S., it's a lot different.
Yes.
So anyway, thought we'd share that with you. We also had a few comments come in about my lovely co-host today. Would you like to hear some of them?
I would.
Noah writes, Christina is the realist. Yeah.
What? Noah, we're friends now. I'll see
Earl
you
Grey
later.
T-Cat says, she is so real. And Resonate gives a fire and a heart and says, look out, she's cooking facts.
It's just, you can't come on a show like this and not really. I want to share my opinion, and I have real opinions.
Really? We hadn't noticed today.
I know you didn't notice.
So anyway, we are gathering that all up. Also, we want to do what we always do at this point in the week. It is time for our current obsessions. That is the rundown of things that are currently taking over all of your free time. A current obsession is that TV show that you run home to continue, the song you play on repeat, the audiobook that maybe makes you drive an extra mile. You've got it all figured out. Anyway, before we jump into mine and Christina's obsessions, what's the top trending item now on Google? It's Matthew McConaughey's new movie, The Rival of Amaziah. Amaziah King, excuse me, The Rival of Amaziah King. What do you think?
No, I didn't even know about that.
I hadn't heard about it either. How out of touch are we?
No, I don't think we're out of touch.
We want to know what your current obsessions are. Give us a call or text us 713-440-8870. Christina, what are you currently obsessed with?
Two things. The first one is watching old seasons of Project Runway. Because if you don't know, I love to sew, and I find that it's incredibly inspiring to me. And number two, it's going to sound a little weird, but I love action movies. I'm a big, Avengers, X-Men. I love action movies. And my son and I went and saw Spider-Man, Brand New Day. Now, I'm going to say, great movie. Action is phenomenal. They use a lot of brand new techniques, and we saw it in the, IMAX or 3D or whatever with the extra glasses. But I will say the thing about the movie that I really love was the messaging. And it was the messaging around becoming an island and deciding you can do everything by yourself and what happens in your life when you try to do that. And understanding that fully being isolated can oftentimes lead to really negative outcomes whenever you're trying to hold on to your pride or you're trying to make sure yourself not a problem or not a burden for other people. And that's something right now for me that's a big message. Right? So I took that away. Like a lot of people said they cried when they watched the movie, and I did, because there was like, wow, are you giving me a message and Tom looking really, really cute with only his underwear on? This is crazy.
I'm not even going to go there. I'm going to say Christina's put a lot more thought into this. I'm currently obsessed with, there is a Greek soup called avoulemeno soup, which is like a Greek chicken lemon soup.
Okay.
And I'm trying to figure out how to make it using like canned chicken and rice soup and then just doctor it up. So I've been obsessed with watching videos. Zhuzhing it to make it taste. I've come pretty close though.
I'm sure you have. But you can stick a whole chicken in the oven with rice around it for an hour.
Yeah.
And then put on some gloves, shred it apart.
Or you could empty a can of cream of chicken soup into your Instant Pot, and in 10 minutes, that's all cooked up, and you can put you mix your lemon and
the journey
eggs.
is just as important as the destination, my love.
What are your current obsessions? 713-440-8870. Noah Espinosa writes us and says, current obsession? I was going to joke around today and say I'm obsessed with this new host, Ernie, and we should keep him around. But now I have a new obsession. Christina Wells has my fire cranked up. So that is Noah's current obsession. Alex Garza says, my current obsession is all things Pokemon. Is Pokemon still a thing?
Oh my gosh, yes.
People
love it. And there's apps. Ask him. There's apps and people use it, and you go around in the world and the city and you find things.
Yes. I just started my very first collection. So new that this world, but it's just a joy. So new to this world, but it's just a joy. Big shout out to HTX Pokemon community. You all are so much fun.
There's a distraction for everyone.
Yes. Oh, that's a good one. There is a distraction for everyone. What else do I have for you? I have I don't have another one for me right now, but my earpiece just fell out.
It just died.
It did. It died.
Said, never mind.
Oh, well.
Christina's taking the show over. You guys, I've got it. We've got 4 minutes to do what we want.
What are some of the other current obsessions you are experiencing? Earl Grey T-Cat says, my current obsession is looking up all different kinds of porridge, soft foods that can be eaten because of my recent oral surgery.
I was about to say, that sounds like jaw surgery.
Yeah, somebody had something there.
Yeah, that's a jaw wired shut, my darling.
You know, a while ago, I was complaining about having to have a root canal. I've never had a problem in my mouth, never had a tooth problem in my life. Very, very good teeth. Had this root canal, had to get a root canal, and then I had to get a crown for that. And if you'd been following, I haven't been talking about, I still haven't gotten the crown. I'm still in the temporary because it's been 3 different crowns have come back and none of them have actually matched the color of my teeth because they're so white. They've had trouble
look how he
matching
led
them.
up to that. That was good.
Thank you. So anyway, but I fear when I finally get the match, I'm going to have to wait for a little while before I can go back to eating my popcorn and gummy candy so that the cement can all
It might change things.
My recent obsession says, I don't even know how to say this, SL0LS, so Slows. I don't know what your name is, but my recent current obsession is learning how to expatriate because it's too late.
That's actually fantastic after we just talked about political campaigns.
Earl Grey T-Cat says it was a gum graft, thankfully, not jaw surgery.
Oh, good.
So,
yay. Prayers for you.
Yes, prayers for you there. Other, we have Mr. Uncle Walt.
Okay.
His current obsession is canna lilies.
Oh.
Yes, they're plants that grow very tall and have a big orange flower on it.
Beautiful.
So, obsessed with
Are you growing them or are you just like to look at them on pictures online?
Well, all I have is my obsession.
I'm just throwing it out in the
lilies.
world. I'm asking the universe. He'll let me know.
Well, I just think it's wonderful. And Maria Honey says, my current obsession is buying and wearing compression socks.
I need to get some of those. Do you have lymphedema or are you just like it because you're a walking worker, like a waitress, a nurse? What you do?
I don't know.
I have all these questions for these people.
You do. That's why I say I like them to call in for current obsessions.
I know. I want to tell you my thoughts or I want to hear more
of
yours.
Well, you know, my obsession is that we are out of time for current obsessions for this week. We take your obsessions all week long, so send them to us. Talk at hellohouston.org in the subject line for current obsessions. We'll gather them together and bring them to you. At next Thursday. Also, you can call anytime, 713-440-8870. Brings us to the end of the show, brings us to the end of Christina Wells sitting in the guest host chair. Thank you, Christina.
Thank you. This was really fun. I appreciate you letting me say my opinions and so supportive of me in this chair. So grateful.
4th day of having a lady of the theater on our show tomorrow. Rebecca Dahl will finish off the week. And then on Monday, my new co-host takes her position in the chair, and she will be with us from now on every day, so you won't have to guess who's sitting next to Ernie. It will be Tessa Barrera starting on Monday. So see you all back here tomorrow for the last day of me with guest hosts. And remember, this is Hello Houston at News 88.7.
Thanks for listening to Hello Houston. Join us every Monday through Friday from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. to talk all things Houston. The Hello Houston production team includes Garrett Bowman, William Menivar, Laura Walker, Jen Altide, Todd Holslander, Jayla Rhodes, Mark DeClaudio, Tom Carter, and Jim Kovacic. For the latest in local news, subscribe to the Hello Houston daily newsletter at HoustonPublicMedia.org. Hello Houston is a production of Houston Public Media. The opinions expressed by the guests of this program are solely their own and do not represent the views of management, staff, or underwriters of Houston Public Media. This is News 88.7.
And this is KUHF Houston, your NPR station here in Houston, a service of the University of Houston. News time is 1 o'clock.
Funding for Here and Now comes from MathWorks, maker of MATLAB and Simulink for engineered systems. MathWorks, accelerating the pace of discovery in engineering.